Good morning. My name is Flemming Besenbacher, and I'm the chairman of the Carlsberg Foundation, but also actually the chairman of the Carlsberg Brewery. I'm really, really pleased to be standing up here and welcome all of you here. And it's fascinating to see so many people who have signed up for this conference here. A special welcome, of course, to our distinguished speakers, which I will introduce slightly later, but also a warm welcome to many of my colleagues from the Danish foundations, but also colleagues from Swedish, Norwegian, foreign foundations from Finland, but also from US and Germany. I think it's really great that we have been able to assemble such a distinguished crowd of people here, and I think not least that the reason for that is that we have managed to, I think, put together a very, very exciting program. Where are we and why are we here? So, just a few remarks. I hope you all know Carlsberg, and I hope you all know that Carlsberg is producing this stuff here. And I hope you are enjoying that high-quality beer. Carlsberg was founded back in 1847 by the founder J.C. Jacobsen. And he moved out here, which at that time was outside the walls of Copenhagen, to a farming land, and he moved out here for one specific reason: in order to make beer, you need clean water. He had throughout his life a very close contact to the leading professor at Copenhagen University, has had a genuine interest in research and development, and he actually contacted the leading professors from the Department of Geology in Copenhagen, and they made drilling around outside Copenhagen and found clean water out here. He was a very visionary man, so another reason he founded his brewery out here was at that time, back in 1847, the first railroad was built in Denmark from Copenhagen to a smaller city called Roskilde. And he could see that logistic-wise, that was one way to transport beer in the future. He built this villa here back in 1855. He lived here with his family. He had one son, Karl, so that's the reason why it's called Carlsberg. Karl, and Valby out here is a small hill outside Copenhagen. A hill in German means Bergen, so Carlsberg is why it's named like that. He was a very successful brewer, was certainly one of the leading brewers in Denmark. He also, as I said, had this very genuine interest in research development. At that time, quite uniquely, he built the Carlsberg Laboratory, because besides having clean water, you also need clean yeast. You didn't have that at that time, but actually for the first time in beer history, actually the lager yeast was purified at the Carlsberg Laboratory. For that achievement, the professor at that time actually got a Nobel medal from the French Academy. He came then to the conclusion in 1876 that he would not donate all his money and his brewery to his son Karl. There's been a slight fight with the father and the son, who both were fantastic brewers, not least about quality. The father constantly claimed never compromise on quality. I do not believe Karl compromised on quality, but at least the father thought so. So again, very surprisingly, many may say, he went to the Royal Danish Academy consisting of approximately 200 professors, and he donated his brewery to the academy and wrote a charter. And in the charter it stated that the Carlsberg Foundation, which consists of 5 professors elected out of the members of the Royal Danish Academy, should on one hand take responsibility of the brewery, make sure the brewery is managed well, and the second thing is that the dividend from the earnings of the Carlsberg Brewery should then be handed out to basic research within natural science, humanities, and social science. That was drafted in 1876, and that's still so today, that Carlsberg is actually supporting basic research within humanities, social science, and natural science. In 1902, he died in 1888. From 1888 until 1970, the Carlsberg Foundation was the sole owner of the brewery. In 1970, there was a merger between 2 larger breweries in Denmark, Carlsberg and Tuborg. Carlsberg became a stock-listed company, and that is still so today. The Carlsberg Foundation is still the controlling main shareholder of the Carlsberg Brewery. We have approximately 30% of the shares in Carlsberg, but due to an A-B stock structure, we have the controlling majority at the General Assembly. We have around 76% of the votes. In 1902, son Karl actually followed in the footsteps of the father, donated his brewery, Old Carlsberg, also to the Carlsberg Foundation. The 2 breweries, New Carlsberg and Carlsberg, were united into one management team, and actually at that time another foundation was established, which is a subdivision under the Carlsberg Foundation, the New Carlsberg Foundation, which then supports arts. So this building here, he lived here. It was a fantastic building here. He had many politicians, people from humanities, social science, and Danish society coming out here for private sessions, dinners, and so forth. Actually, then, after he died, his wife lived here until 1913, but then it was transformed into an honorary home for a famous Dane. And if I just to pick one famous Dane who was living here for 31 years, that's Professor Niels Bohr. So he moved out here in 1931 and stayed here until he died in 1962. So, I'm a scientist myself, so that means that Christine is indicating I should do something, so I follow what Christine is saying. Actually, Heisenberg, Schrödinger, Einstein, all the men which we all associate with the quantum mechanics have walked around here, developed quantum mechanics here. So there's also a very historic place for science and science community and for the well-being of all of us. Carlsberg has, if you go back and read the charter and so forth, some of the core values is, as I said before, quality, quality, quality in everything what we're doing, never compromise on quality. Another of the core things, DNA of Carlsberg, is what he formulated as Sembarden, which means always burning. We should always try to step up, try to improve, learning from best practices from others, and improve whatever we're doing. That means improving process, but also the way we manage the brewery. He certainly demonstrated what today is well known as corporate social responsibility, given the fact that he actually donated his money and his brewery to, you can say, the Danish society indirectly through the Royal Danish Academy. It's also a story about a father and a son who actually, after these two generations, more or less gave away all their money. Museum, Carls earned a lot of money, built a fantastic museum, the new Carlsberg Glyptotek. If you ever have a couple of hours extra in Copenhagen, then go downtown Copenhagen next to Tivoli, go into the Glyptotek, and just realize this is one man's private collection. I think every time I go over there next to my office, I get sort of astonished by that. Many things have happened since then, and we're here today. We are still having very high stands in corporate social responsibility, but although the 1800s was a time of change, I think today this is certainly also a time of change. And normally I'm saying new is normal. I just returned from Davos last week, and I think we can all realize today that the world is changing very rapidly, and we constantly have to be prepared for the unexpected. We can think back just a few years ago with the financial macroeconomic crisis. We thought that was all over. Then suddenly came the geopolitical crisis, which sort of we are facing today. I just have to mention sort of Crimea, Ukraine, Syria, and so forth, and the tension, and that also have a huge impact on our society. Again, walking around down in Davos and listening to a lot of talk, it still appears to me that the real big challenge, and I certainly realize that the other challenges are also huge, the real big challenge for the 21st century is really how we as a society handle what I call the real big challenges. And that means the fact that we are today 7 billion people on the globe. All indications say that will be around 10 when we come to the next century. It is evident that many places around the world, within just 1 or 2 decades, and maybe even before, there will be a huge lack of clean water. It's evident today that we have had access to a lot of clean energy, not least coal and gas and oil. I think it cannot be disputed any longer if you look at the United Nations climate reports that we have the ever highest level of CO2 in our atmosphere. I do not believe any longer that it can be disputed that some of this CO2 mankind generated has actually caused some of the climate issues we are seeing around the world. Thunderstorms, a big snowstorm in US right now, flooding, other areas where there's no water and all. And I think that both to handle the financial issues, the geopolitical issues, and the more climate issues call upon leadership. This means political leadership, because many of these things, certainly not the geopolitical, also the climate issues, cannot be solved by one country. Denmark is doing fantastic and sort of have a very visionary approach to green energy and being CO2 neutral in 2030. I believe we are building a lot of windmills, and I think today around 35% of our electricity is coming from windmills. Not all countries can do that. I'm not sure windmill will solve the world's energy problems. But political leadership is required. Certainly also political leadership is required to solve the geopolitical crisis, but also leadership from businesses. I think we are also facing a world today where running businesses is not only by having one bottom line, meaning profit, profit, profit. It's also more and more realized that you should have companies which also take responsibility for society and create what can be called blended value or shared value, meaning that you should also create value for your employees, for your customers, but also for society in general. And that's where I think many foundations play a crucial role, not least here in Denmark. Some of you who are not from Denmark, may I just remind you about that many of the leading Danish companies here in Denmark are actually controlled by a corporate foundation. Carlsberg, Novo Nordisk, Novozymes, Oticon, private foundations also like Lego, Danfoss, Grundfos. And that's a model which I think is quite unique from Denmark, and we should do whatever we can to protect. Because what does it mean to be controlled by a corporate foundation? I think that, first of all, it's so that the foundation guarantees that there's a constant balance, what is good for the companies on the short run, but also what's good for the company in the long run. And I keep saying, for example, Carlsberg should never be managed in such a way that we only have focus on Q1, Q2, and Q3. Of course, we have to have focus on that because that's sort of the license to operate in the future. But we should also constantly have focus on what's good for Carlsberg in 5, 10, and 20 years from now on. And I'm pretty sure many of the same things can be said by many of the colleagues from many of the other corporate foundations. Besides then, of course, running a business, Carlsberg is today the 4th largest brewer in the world with around 45,000 employees, 66 billion DKK in turnaround. Actually saw also many of these foundations, they are out to donate money to society. Many of them are actually donating money to basic research in society. And our minister, Sofie Carsten Nielsen, will come later today, and I think it's fair to say that in the Danish Research Society, the foundations play a larger and larger role. What are we giving money for basic research? I normally say it very brief, we give the money to the best people with the best project. Quality, quality, quality. There's big variation between these foundations, but I think by the end of the day, it's really about giving the best money to the best people. And of course, people is very important. People is very important for Carlsberg. People is very important for universities. And another very important role of the foundations is actually to take responsibility for educating the next generation of talented people at universities. That's at least high on the agenda at Carlsberg Foundation. We every year give around 50 grants to the very best PhD students, allow them to travel outside Denmark, get international experience, stay at Harvard, MIT, Cambridge, Oxford, Munich, Beijing, wherever they would like to go. Best people, best universities, go there with their own money, establish their own international network and come back again. I think this is very, very important, success in planning for universities, and I do honestly believe that the foundations is playing a crucial role. So why did we take this initiative here? I think first of all, again from Davos, I think PPP, private-public partnership, is becoming more and more important. And it is important that the foundations also take responsibility for society in general. That means that the foundations should, of course, collaborate with society in general, with the companies, with the research agencies, both national-wise and on EU level. But we should also then discuss how we can build up capacity to do this in the very best way. And there again, going back to the brewer, he was a sort of visionary man, sharing all his knowledge. The lager yeast was not patented. He actually shared it with all the rest of the world. Small brewers in Copenhagen could come and knock on his door and ask for some yeast. And I even have a letter from the brewmaster on Heineken where he claimed that his yeast became bad and if you would get some of the Carlsberg yeast. So I hate to say that I don't hope you drink Heineken, but if you ever drink Heineken, then be aware that it's all brewed on Carlsberg yeast. My colleagues from Heineken is not that keen when I say that, but that's actually true. So I think that here, again, I think it's a fantastic opportunity to establish further collaboration between the Danish foundations, but also actually goes transnational and also establish collaboration with international foundations from our brothers in the Scandinavian Nordic countries, but also with Germany and in US. And I have a privilege last evening to have dinner with some of our invited speakers, and I'm already having 10 new ideas for new projects where I could sort of envision discussing with them in the future. So that's really why we're here today, and I hope we will have this setting here as a great opportunity just to discuss and share knowledge and learning from best practices from some of our outstanding colleagues around the world. And I must say that I'm very, very pleased that we have here today collected an outstanding series of lectures. We have Wilhelm Krull from the Volkswagen Stiftung here. We have Natalie Kylander from the Kennedy School of Government in Harvard. We have, moving on here, Sofie Carsten Nielsen will come after lunch. Our minister is busy here in the morning. We have Sia Khan, Vice President for Rockefeller Foundation. Jed Emerson, who is the father of the Blender Value, as many of you know about here. Mark Henderson from Wellcome Trust. And that brings me to the final thing here is to introduce to you our moderator today. And I'm really honored here that Brent Goff could actually come here today. So Brent is very known to many of you if at least you listen to German TV. Brent is having a program there called Agenda with Brent Goff, the flagship weekly news program on Deutsche Welle in English since it was launched in 2012. Agenda has been praised around the world and certainly also in Germany, and including a nomination for the International Emmy Award in 2014. Brent holds a MA in German and European Studies from Georgetown University, and actually also political studies from Missouri. He moved to Germany in a Bosch Fellow in '99, I believe, has stayed there ever since. Then, of course, fluent in English and in German now, have received many awards from his fantastic work here, is lecturing at the Institute of Journalism at Hamburg University. Again, I'm very pleased that you could come here and do this. Brent is a very smart guy, and I'm just preparing all the lectures here to be prepared for the worst. So with these few words, again, a very, very warm welcome for me, and I hope we'll get a great day. But before doing so, I mentioned sort of the world is changing a lot, and we have to be prepared for the future. And in order to do that, I would now like you to prepare you for the future. Because a simple question, how does the world look in 2028? So let me just show you a small video here for 2.5 minutes, and hopefully that will sort of bring up your mind and reflect a little bit about if we meet again in 2028. I cannot guarantee it will be like that, but I think there's many of these things will actually happen that way.